The following video is improvised because I'm not a YouTuber and don't have time to write scripts.
Hi people, this is me, Andrew Renko from Ukraine, from Studio Quetch Records, and this is going to be part 2 video of the comparing audio formats for source files, because I was asking myself, can I use lossy audio codecs to store my audio files? I mean, if this is possible. I used WAV before, but it's too hefty. I began to use FLAC because it's WAV lossless but compressed like zip file. It's very good. But then I decided, why can't I go further? What if I use a little bit of lossy compression formats? And OGG Vorbis is the best file, the best codec that I tested. The results of my test are in part 1 in previous video. And now we will check what will happen if source files of the whole track, rock track, will be in OGG format and in WAV format. What will be the result of the final mix? What will be the difference? How the overall mix will sound if we use both WAV and OGG source files? So I did that. First of all, I printed like drums because they are MIDI drums. I needed them to be exactly same every time. So I printed everything to WAV and I exported instrumental and vocal versions of tracks. And then I converted all the source files to OGG and exported instrumental and vocal versions of this track again. You can see a lot of processing, exciting, imaging, spectral shaping, very hard limiting, multiband compression, regular compression, a little bit of EQ, and this is only mastering channel. So other stuff like a lot of sidechain on bass, Helix, which is guitar amp simulation on guitar, the same, ARs, a little bit of different processing. For vocals, that is completely different story. So yeah, we rendered that, and let's begin our test comparison. Okay, let's check the OGG Vorbis. And let's listen to WAV version. And now let me switch between them during the playback so you could hear the difference. If you can hear the difference, then you are my hero, because I can't hear that. And if we solo both tracks and invert the phase on one of them, we will notice that most of the content of this track phases out. So drums are completely gone. They are non-existent, even cymbals. Listen to that. Of course you can hear them, but they are really far. Compare that to a regular loudness of the track. So yeah, of course, probably like a half of dB of higher frequencies was shaved off by Vorbis, but in the same time there is exciter, which is saturation on the whole mix, working on actually fulfilling those frequencies, and multiband compression, which also working, which will dynamically see that there's less of that frequency, so it will balance it out as much as it can. So the final results ends up very similar, and the only thing that you can really distinguish that is not phasing out completely is the guitars, but not whole guitar, only the most prominent part of it, like 4K. Why is that happening? Because yes, of course, OGG changes high frequencies a little bit, so it probably cut a little bit of high frequency from source files of guitars, which is guitar DI track, and by that, after processing the whole thing through guitar amp distortion, which is high gain amp, it samples positions in guitar, final guitar, those samples ended up being in a little bit different positions than they were before, and because of that, guitar are not phasing out completely, because they just technically cannot do that, because of course a little bit of processing was done to guitars. They lost a little bit of frequencies and sample places were shifted. So let's listen next examples. First of all, just solo, one track to hear. Now cancellation. So the story is the same as before, just samples were shifted, and that's why it differs, and guitar doesn't cancel out completely. But I'm sure that the overall frequency response of guitars actually remains the same. It's not darker now because of conversion to OGG. It's not darker. It's just a little bit different, but it's the same brightness as before. So now let's check the vocal part, which is rap. Let's listen to it.
Щоб попаде під руку, тим і буду бити. 1-5 артами никала ж кастети біти. Із дрона падає сюрприз, поки присів за кущик. То наука була.
Okay, wave is
Щоб попаде під руку, тим і буду бити.
The same to me. And if we compare through the phase cancellation, vocal is almost completely gone because it had minimal processing, and yeah, it canceled out very good, and it will not be noticeable. Do you have WAV or OGG source files? It will not be noticeable in final track by any chance. So I think we should stop on that, because there's no point of moving further. We heard the difference. It's very small, I think. And does it completely changes the frequency balance of your tracks? No, it's not. Just some samples changed their positions, for example in guitars, because high frequencies were just reshuffled a little bit because of compression to OGG. But is it sound worse? No, it doesn't sound worse at all. In the mix, you will never be able to notice it. So my conclusion is next. Using OGG Vorbis for your source files is okay. It won't like completely destroy your mix. Of course, if we're talking about the fact that you will then need to render your track to WAV file, because music distributors accept WAV lossless files, that is completely understandable. So if you'll be doing WAV file from OGG files. That sounds like dumb, but I'm not suggesting that you should use OGG Vorbis from the start. You can mix whole the track using WAV or FLAC source files, but then when you're finished, you're done, you need to conserve your track to lay it off in your finished tracks folder or finished projects. So to save space, OGG is perfect. Then if you'll need to fix something, you'll be able to do that. But mix will probably be a little bit different, but it will be the same mix with the same frequency balance. Nobody gonna phase cancel it, so everything will be good. Just to save space, if the project, for example, is not very important for you, you can use OGG and you will do just fine, I think. But in most cases, of course, FLAC is the best, and on many projects I will still use FLAC. But if I can use Vorbis, if I know that I will, like 90% a chance that I will never come back to that project, I will just do it in OGG and lay it off, because okay, let it be, but I will probably never need it. So yeah, that's the story. Also be sure that not every DAW can play OGG Vorbis, so I don't recommend you to export stems to OGG Vorbis, because stems in Vorbis will not be played. For example, in Logic, Cubase can play it, but Logic, as I remember, not, because I googled it. So yeah, you will still need to render your stems in FLAC format. But yeah, do what you want. I just made such test and I think it's fun.
Що попаде під руку, тим і буду бити. 1,5 артами ника, ложка стети біти. Із дрона падає сюрприз, поки присів за кущик. То наука буде всім, що чахлий падло, все ж ми рущі. Припхалися сюди, скажіть, на що був?